You've probably seen this, and it's wild. At 366 feet tall, it's officially the largest sphere and the largest screen in the world. It's so massive that it took a crane to assemble the crane that could assemble the dome. The shell is a 580,000 square foot fully programmable LED screen named the Exosphere, and believe it or not, the whole thing can run on a single MacBook Air. It's designed to give you the most immersive experience with an infrasound haptic flooring system that carries bass through the floors, and a beamform sound system embedded in the walls that delivers sound directly to each seat. And I think it could completely transform live entertainment. But at the price tag of $2.3 billion, it's a big gamble. So, the MSG Sphere, is it a pioneering breakthrough or a massive waste of money? A portion of this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. I think there's something about a sphere that's captivated the human imagination for ages. The ancient Greeks saw the sphere as an embodiment of harmony and perfection. Boulez saw the sphere as the sublime tribute to the infinite cosmos, a symbol of the universe. Buckminster Fuller saw the sphere as the epitome of efficiency and strength. And now we unveil the sphere. The perfect encapsulation of the 21st century zeitgeist. What's unique about the sphere is that the form and the experience are one. There are other spherical venues around the world, but this is the first one to capitalize on its form. And that's because the sphere is actually one of the worst shapes for acoustics, because the sound, it bounces around the hall and it gets muddled. So when you go inside spherical venues, there's still the traditional curved boxes, which is the ideal shape for acoustics. So when they were building the sphere, they developed a new sound system that uses audio beams to deliver sound directly to individual seats. There's 168,000 speakers, which means at roughly 20,000 seats, there's about 8.4 speakers per person. Essentially, the whole space is a speaker. This allows them to capitalize on the spherical form to create a completely new genre of entertainment that's kind of a mix of a planetarium, IMAX, opera hall, and stadium, and VR goggles. And it also includes haptic technology for cooling winds, rumbling seats, and even scents to immerse people into the show. There's no columns or structural obstructions, and because your viewing experience is not only towards the stage, but it's 360, every seat in the venue will get a unique, highly stimulating experience. Well, except these 800 seats. Somebody's getting fired. U2 is going to be the opening act at the Sphere, and there's a reason for that. According to Rolling Stone, the band is a natural fit for the Sphere because they're constantly experimenting and trying to push the boundaries in live music experience. The problem is, not everyone is U2. And actually, there's quite a lot of limitations on who can perform there. Given the unique form, standard visuals are going to be very distorted on the interior, and the haptic technology, that adds another layer of complexity. There's a mini version of the Sphere that allows artists to test their ideas before the show, but even with that, the amount of effort and time required is considerably higher than what they're used to. I mean, what kind of camera can even create videos for a gigantic 360 screen? Oh, well, there's one. The MSG Studio. They developed a camera that's the most capable of producing videos for the interior screen. So they kind of have a monopoly on this. Even for U2, they said the time and expenses required to develop the visual pieces, it made it really hard for them to be spontaneous for their act. This could turn off a lot of artists, because based on the time and cost of developing a show for this venue, well, first of all, they'd have to sell out the show, and it might not be practical to develop a whole show that can only be played at this one venue. A lot of artists actually feel like the flashy visuals would overpower the music, and when they were trying to secure the acts for the show, a lot of artists just straight up said no. The exterior has a similar problem. Yes, it's going to be a whole new genre of advertising that's creative and different, but right now, there's not a lot of companies who know how to market on a spherical screen, which could be an issue because it costs $2.3 billion. It could take them a pretty long time to make that back. And in fact, MSG and James Dolan, the brainchild and the primary investor behind the Sphere, is currently facing lawsuits from several construction companies for more than $3 million of unpaid bills. Plus, according to S&P Global, the Sphere is going to take up about 95,000 megawatt hour of electricity annually. At the rate of 18 cents per kilowatt hour in Vegas, that's roughly $17.2 million a year. And just for reference, a typical commercial building of between 15,000 to 25,000 square feet consumes about 180 megawatt hour. So the Sphere consumes the energy of roughly 529 of these buildings. And with the money they've already sunk into the project and the money that they will be paying, the audience might be the ones paying the price. I absolutely love what I do, but it has really amplified this weird relationship that I've always had with making mistakes. I'd always get into this loop of constantly overthinking and beating myself up for making the smallest mistakes, to a point where it was getting exhausting and unproductive. And it's been really helpful to work with a therapist on recognizing some of my thought patterns and just trying to make some small improvements. Which is why I'm really excited to tell you about today's sponsor. BetterHelp makes therapy accessible and affordable, and it's 100% online, so it's really easy to adapt it to your schedule. Finding a therapist can be really hard, especially if you're limited to the ones in your area. So if you're finding that your therapist is not a good fit, you can easily switch to a new therapist for free. So if you follow the link betterhelp.com/DamiLee, you get 10% off your first month, so you can try and see if it helps. Thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this video. So what I was saying is, they've already spent a lot of money on this project, but there are those exceptional projects that, despite their costs or public pushbacks or the amount of time it took to build, have been incredibly successful. And they've even become icons of their cities. They've transcended the mere function of a building, and they've become destinations that people travel to. And the Sphere, it could be one of those buildings. It's been shared millions of times, and it's kind of out of this world. And at its core, it's a very democratic idea. There's a connection between the inside and the outside that allows the indoor ticketed concert to be projected outside for the non-paying audience to see. This connection has never been done before in a traditional music venue because they typically require a very controlled lighting and sound condition. And so it is a first of its kind, and it has the opportunity to create some really incredible public spaces or viewing platforms. But based on what we're seeing right now, any walking space or public space around it is a little underwhelming. To the north, we have this massive golf club. To the east, we have a bunch of office buildings. And to its south, we have a Holiday Inn who will get these fabulous views. It's right along the Vegas monorail line, so at least you can see it while you're moving down the strip. Right now, it seems like most of the Sphere's exterior space will likely be dedicated to parking to meet the minimum of 13,900 spots. And honestly, based on the scale of this thing, I don't even know what it's gonna be like to stay up close. But the renderings do show a ring at the base, so maybe that's in the works. If it does remain mostly parking lots, maybe it could at least become a drive-in movie theater. Although the Sphere is a totally private project, and technically they don't have a lot of responsibilities to improve the public realm, for a massive project like this, there's always opportunities to create an amazing public sphere. Take this mind of mine. In Vegas alone, there's tons of examples of public viewing spaces that's created by privately owned buildings. But maybe the best way we can compare would be to look at the exact same building, just in a different context, the MSG Sphere in Stratford in East London. It's planned on a 4.7-acre triangular site that's been sitting empty for 6 years. And the key difference from Vegas is this podium surrounding the sphere and the variety of public spaces that's programmed in from the start. There's the viewing space, there's the serene garden space, there's the community space, and these different levels create a very dynamic public space. And there's not one, not two, but 4 pedestrian access points that connect it to the surrounding bridges. So that means you can come here, and even if you're not seeing a show, you can come and hang out and just watch whatever's on the screen. And they've actually designed in a place for the audience to gather outside. But despite how well it's been integrated with the site, 850 out of the 1,200 resident groups voted against the project, who, understandably, said they don't want to be forced to live face-to-face with an enormous, glowing advertising ball. The project is on a temporary hold to address some of these concerns, but there are some big arguments for the project. It's going to create thousands of jobs, and it's going to bring in roughly 60,000 people daily for 300 days of the year to this part of the city. Very sound argument. And so if this thing passes, and if they're able to figure out a way to integrate this obnoxious object into an urban environment, that's going to set a new precedence for what's acceptable when it comes to advertising disguised as entertainment, or for light pollution in residential areas. And as we have so often seen, we don't necessarily know the impacts of these things until it's a little too late. This was created using oils, lights, colors, and alcohol smashed between 2 plates. You place them on a projector, placed throughout the concert venue, and you sync the plates to the beat of the music. Even this primitive technology saw mass adoption when it was developed in the 60s, and it transformed live performances from a listening experience to a visual experience. Look at how far we've come. We're entering yet another era where music and art is a multi-sensory experience that transcends any other concert or movie experience. It could open the doors to a completely new expression of creativity. First Vegas, now London. This thing is ripe for replication, and as trends spread like wildfire these days, we could be seeing more and more of these giant eyeballs all over the world. But for all its promise, the sphere also poses some fundamental concerns. And it's especially when things are so shiny and new that we need to be extra diligent. Because things that seem like progress sometimes have a weird way of setting us back. Thanks for watching, guys. What do you think about the sphere? Let me know in the comments. I also have a Discord server and a newsletter. I'll leave the links below. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.